In this tutorial, we are going to explore how to make a layer masking collage. So you can see in this example, we have chosen the theme of dogs, the movie Lady and the Tramp. We have used all of these images of dogs and we have put them together in a way that they fade in and out of each other, so you can't even really tell that these are all different images. We have put them over a shape with a gradient and added text. So let's look at how we can create our own. I'm going to create a new document, make sure our resolution is 300 pixels per inch, and we are going to press create. I am going to do my layer masking collage about plants. So I have Googled plant photos and I'm going to save these onto my desktop. Now you want to make sure to save the larger file. So if I just took this thumbnail and dragged it onto my desktop, this is going to be a very small photo. So I want to make sure to click it open and save this larger photo by just dragging it onto my desktop. Once you go back to Photoshop, we can just drag these on to our project. I would suggest doing them one at a time to just keep things clean and simple for you. So I want to select this photo. I want to select just the flowers and I want to hide everything else. But I want to be fading these flowers in, so I don't want to delete the background because that's permanent. I just want to hide the background. So we have some quick selection tools and we have some manual selection tools. We also have some shape selection tools. Most of the time for this project, we are going to use your quick selection tools. We have 3 options. Some photos will work best with different selections. First, we have our object selection. This will, if we hover over a shape, it will show us what it might select. This does a pretty good job. So I click this and make that selection. Then to put a layer mask on it, I want to come over here to layers, and this is my layer mask button. This hides everything else except for the object I had selected. You can see in your layers, black means hide and white means show. So if I wanted to maybe hide some of the edge of this plant, I can take my black brush and I can paint. I'm going to turn my opacity up so it's not so see-through, and turn my hardness down so the edge of my brush is softer instead of so hard. Make it a little bit bigger. Now if I come over here, I can hide parts of my picture. Maybe I want to show some of that back. I can switch my brush from black to white and I can show some of that back in there. So the reason we use layer masking is because it is just a temporary hiding of what we don't want to see, and we can edit that later. It is not permanent like if we had deleted our background. I'm just undoing this by clicking Command Z to get back to where I want it. Now I'm going to go pick another one of my photos. Maybe we'll do this hanging pothos. We're going to click to put that down. Let's try this time our magic wand tool. This finds all of one color. If I click, it will select just that one color. It's not so great for things that have a lot of texture or different highlights and shadows because it really needs one solid color. Like this will select all of that outside tan. To deselect, if you don't like a selection, we can hit Command D to deselect. We also have a quick selection tool. We can use this to color in parts of our selection and slowly move this around to select more. I would suggest unclicking every once in a while, and then you can keep going. In case we get some we don't want, we can Command Z without having to start all the way over. Lastly, we have this very handy tool up here that will just select a subject. If it can recognize one object in your photo, it should be able to select that for you. Now again, we can come down here to Layer Mask, and for the most part it did a really good job of cutting our photo out. To move it around, I'm just using my selection tool. Now we don't want to see this part up here, so this may be where I go get my black brush, because black is hide and white is show. I'm going to get my paintbrush and I'm going to hide that background. Now let's say I wanted to change the size of this plant. I'm going to go back up here to my select tool, and we want to do something called free transform to change the size. So I'm going to hold down Command on my keyboard and hit the letter T. This gives me this blue box around my shape that I can make things smaller or bigger. If you want to stretch and pull on this image, you can hold Shift and you can stretch and pull it. I want it to stay the same dimensions, so I'm not going to hold Shift. I can make this smaller and put it where I might want it. Now you can see I have put all the images on here that I want. So this is getting really busy. To make this simpler, if you don't want to do your images one at a time and you want to put them all on there, but still keep it so that you can kind of tell what you're working on, you can hit this little eye icon to hide the images you want to save for later. You can always bring them back. Now I want to select what I'm working on and add my layer mask. I don't want these strings in there, so black is hide, white is show, so I'm going to use black to hide those strings. Then I'm going to Command T to free transform and make this smaller. And I will do that for the rest of my images. I will hide some of these I don't want to see and bring back the one I want to work on. Now if I try to go make a selection, it's going to give me these weird, I can't select my shape. If you are having this problem, make sure to look what layer you are clicked on. Right now I am not clicked on the layer that I currently want to work on. So I'm going to make sure I'm clicked on the correct layer, and now it's showing me the correct selections. Looks like the magic wand tool is not working on this one, so let's try select subject. That looks great, and we'll put that layer mask on it. I'll hide that one and go to the next one. Now this one has several different plants on it. Let's say I want to just choose one of these. Let's say I want this one over here. I just want to delete the rest. So we also have our manual selection tools. I usually just use the polygonal lasso tool. I find that it is the one that I have the most control over. So let's say I want to select just this plant. I'm just going to make individual clicks around this whole plant all the way back to the beginning. Now if I click delete, oh, I'm not on my correct layer. So I want to make sure, let's make sure I didn't delete anything. Nope. I want to make sure I'm clicked on my correct layer. Now if I press delete, it may come up with this message that you cannot edit this image because it is a smart object and not directly editable. A smart object is made out of math. We want to turn this into pixels. So we are going to right click and we are going to come down to rasterize layer. That is going to turn your layer into pixels. Now if I press delete, it does delete, but it deletes the one I wanted to keep. So we're going to Command Z to undo that. We're going to come up here to select and we are going to select inverse. So it's going to turn our selection inside out. Now we can delete everything except for the plant we want to work on. Going to Command D to deselect. And then I can come over to my quick selection tools. This one didn't do a great job selecting my subject. So I'm going to try to use a different selection tool. Let's try our quick selection tool. We're going to zoom in and we're just going to start coloring in. Remember, I want to pick up my finger every once in a while. So if I need to go back a little bit later, I don't have to start the whole thing over. And we're not going to get too picky about my outlines because I'm going to blend all my plants in to each other later. This did a much better job at selecting my subject. And now I can add my layer mask. To see my whole project again, to fit it all in the screen, I can just double click my hand. Now that I have layer masked all my plants, I'm going to bring them all back so I can start arranging them. Let's start with the one that's on top. Your layers are all in a list right here. The one on top is going to be the one in the front. The one on the bottom is going to be all the way in the back. So let's say you wanted this peace lily in the very front. We are just going to drag this up to the top. Now I'm going to start sizing these with my free transform by pressing the buttons Command and T. Now I'm going to speed this way up to show you how I got here. I'm going to be arranging all my plants. I'm going to be moving the order to decide what plants I want to be more in front, which plants I want to be more in back. And you will see that I needed some spaces filled in. Like I felt there was an empty space right here. So I went and found some more pictures, this one as well from the internet, and just added a few more to fill those in. Okay, let's look at how to actually edit the layer mask so we can blend these plants in and out so they look like they are fading into each other, just like we see in our dogs that fade into each other. Now remember, black is hide and white is show. So we're going to click our black and white palettes. and we can switch them easily by using this switch tool. So right now I want to hide, let's say I want to hide some of this white vase and this white vase. I just want to have the plants. So we're going to make sure we're clicked on the correct layer, and we are going to use the black paintbrush to hide. Now, when I first click this, it says you cannot edit this. We want to make sure that we are clicked on our layer mask and not just our image. So when we click on our layer mask, then we can start hiding parts of our images. If you are on a layer that if you're on a layer that you start painting, I want to hide parts of this image, and you start painting and it turns black, that means you are also clicked on the image and not the layer mask. So we want to make sure to go back and click on the layer mask. Now let's say I want to hide this face. We're going to go in with our black paintbrush, make sure we're clicked on our layer mask, and we are going to start hiding parts of this. Now let's say we hid too much. We erased some of our leaves over there. We can switch this to white and go back and show some of those. Maybe you want to just hide the vase. This may be a good time to go back and use one of your selection tools. And we're going to select just the vase so that when we go in with our hide brush on our layer mask part of our layer, we are going to make sure we are on our correct layer. And right now I'm painting and something seems to be weird. I have my white, which is show, instead of my black, which is hide. So I need to get my black, and then I can go hide that vase. Command D is deselect. I don't like these strings up here, so I can go hide those. Maybe I just hide that whole leaf. I want to have this purple flower fade into this hanging flower. So I'm going to go in with my hide brush, make sure to click on my correct layer, click on my layer mask, and I can go in with my brush and make that look like it's fading right in. I am going to continue to edit these layer masks to make things fade in and out of each other and move my plants around into a composition that I like. Let's speed this up. Now that I have everything faded how I want it, I want to add some finishing touches, something that's going to pull this all together. What I think I want is a shape that these plants can look like they're coming out of. So we have this shape tool right here. If you click and hold, you'll get all these different options for shapes. I want to do an ellipse or a round shape. So you can see up here you have a fill color that's going to be the inside of the shape. You can always click for more options. And we have an outline color. I'm going to leave my fill color and outline color as black and blue. Now I am going to click and pull to make a shape. Now maybe you want a perfect circle. If you want a perfect circle, or depending what shape you're using, maybe it's a perfect square, a perfect triangle, you can hold the shift button on the keyboard and pull a perfect circle. I like my oval, so I'm going to pull an oval, move it sort of in the middle, and now I will want that in the background, so I'm going to pull that layer down to the bottom. Now at this point you might want to edit some of your fading and your layer masks. So here we can go back, choose your layer. Now remember, white is show, so if I color white in there, I will be showing some of the picture. So this time I want to use black to hide. Oops, that was white. I want to use black to hide. There we go. So you can do as much editing there as you want. Instead of a border or a shape, you want to do a background image. I've seen this done with projects about basketball, having a basketball court as the background. So I found on the internet a kind of this blurry green background. So I'm just going to pull this into my project, and since this is a background, we're going to put it all the way at the bottom. This is going landscape, and we want to put it portrait. So I'm just going to turn this around. You notice I might not be able to get this perfectly straight. Again, to get it perfect, hold shift on the keyboard and it will snap to angles. Now I am going to pull this all the way up into the corner and drag it so it fits. I still think this kind of hides the plants since the green is the same color of the plants. So maybe I bring this border back and leave the green behind it. I think this looks wonderful. I'm satisfied. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, put my name in the title, and save it to be able to turn it in. And then we can go to Canvas and turn that file in.